Okay, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Pamela Crisco, and I will be hosting today's Canadian Psychedelic Association webinar. Well, people are joining in the chat box. Let us know where you are watching from. If you're on Facebook Live, please give us some likes. Let's kick this out to a lot of people out there. And while people are signing in, let's give them a bit of time. I'd like to give you an update. The decriminalized nature petition here in Canada closed on August 14th with a wonderful 14,910 signatures. It will be read in Parliament likely in September. Keep an eye out on the decriminalizednature.ca website for updates. And thank you to all of those who helped. It has opened up many conversations with MPs, MLAs, and policymakers. So we're about to start. Please say hello in the chat where you are from, and if you belong to a local psychedelic society, feel free to post your website there for others in your area to find you and see how to connect. All right, so I'm getting a lot of bings, so I just need to make sure I don't need to answer those, which I don't. Okay, so the Canadian Psychedelic Association is a nonprofit dedicated to the healthy and fruitful development of the psychedelic community. We are run on 99% volunteer efforts and love. Our number one core value is kindness. So with that, we thank all of you who have kindly donated to the CPA so that we can continue to produce these webinars and accelerate the resources available on the CPA website. If you do want to support us, please go to the membership page and become a friend of the CPA. So, introducing myself, I'm Dr. Pamela Crisco. I am one of the founding and interim board members of the Canadian Psychedelic Association. I'm a family doctor with a special interest in chronic pain, and I'm a researcher involved in numerous projects, including ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, MDMA, and psilocybin. And because I'm an MD, you just have to bear with me, I have to read this little disclaimer. The content provided on this webinar is solely for information and harm reduction purposes. It is not intended to be medical advice, recommendations, or a formal opinion of any kind. If you require medical advice, please consult a doctor. Thank you. So everyone out there, this is our third webinar on the plant medicine Tabernanthe iboga. I hope I said that right. Robin, you'll let me know if I didn't. It's a plant native to West Africa and specifically to Gabon, Cameroon, and the Republic of Congo, where it has been used ceremonially for centuries. Very few medical schools or medical residencies teach about plant, fungi, and molecular medicines. Thus, in that vein, as an MD, I'm here to listen and learn with the rest of our audience. The CPA recognizes that there are multiple opinions and perspectives on the use of this medicine. And today we hope to facilitate some of them and recognize that this is not a definitive or a complete discussion. We fully welcome your feedback and your ideas for future webinar topics. And so to start off, I am incredibly honored to introduce these three Canadian women who have so kindly agreed to share their stories with us. And with that, I'm going to ask each of our guests, Robin, Maria, and Trish in that order, to do a brief introduction of themselves to our audience.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pam. My name's Robin. I live in BC, Canada, and my husband and I, Mark, work with the Iboga medicine. We run a retreat center called Iboga Soul Shamanic Healing, and we were featured in a documentary called Dosed, and that's available to stream and online. So anyhow, the Iboga medicine is something that we honor and deeply respect in our lives because it's helped us essentially save ourselves from mental health disorders and substance abuse problems personally in our lives. And I'll get more into that later, but I'm feeling a little bit of excitement being here with all you ladies because, we're all in these different pockets of the world and all going through this COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm very excited to sit and talk with you and, share some ideas. Yeah.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Trish, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, my name's Trish, and I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is in Canada. I'm here super grateful to be here, and I'm really here to just, really explore a topic I'm really passionate about, which is, trauma recovery. But I believe that there is a huge benefit to using plant medicine in that. And this really comes from my own experience of using iboga to deal with my drug addiction problems and eating disorder and with some mental health struggles. And iboga really taught me a lot of the really important mindfulness skills that I use in my life, and the self-soothing skills. And it's what inspired me to start my own charity called the Higher Learning Foundation, where basically I teach kids the mindfulness aspect of living as well as give them scholarship money. And I'm just super grateful for iboga because it was through that journey and that transition from my trauma to my healed self that now I have a company that I can use to help train, younger kids to take their trauma and heal themselves and turn into a superpower.
Wow, that's amazing. And Maria, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Maria. I live in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. And I am also super grateful to be here with everybody to talk about iboga, which really, for me, saved my life. And it helped me overcome, mental health struggles, issues as well as a pretty bad opiate addiction. So I'm excited to be here to talk about that. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So we're going to kind of start off with a bit of a challenging question, and I've asked Robin to help us navigate this. So there are some legitimate concerns around cultural appropriation and colonization of a number of plant medicines. So Robin, can you talk to us about iboga and how those concerns pertain to it?
100%, 110%. I will say that poaching is a very real thing. Iboga is being poached in the three regions that it grows in: Gabon, Congo, and Cameroon. 3 countries, I should say. So it's something that definitely needs to be addressed. And I'm really happy and grateful that people are so passionate about this, because we are too. My husband and I had the opportunity on our own journeys to travel to Gabon, which is also where we met, and do initiation ceremonies and do rites of passage into the Bwiti tradition. And the Bwiti tradition is the the spiritual tradition from Gabon, Africa, that holds iboga. And it holds it so much that it is the national treasure of Gabon. So there's spiritual traditional rituals that go along with harvesting the iboga root medicine in a healthy and spiritually sound way. And what we've witnessed down in the villages where we've done our work and done our own healing work is that they have such an abundance of this medicine that the villagers that we've told, the shaman we've told that there's people concerned about iboga running out in the world, they've actually left. And they've said, no, it's so plenty, it's abundant everywhere. There's iboga, there's medicine for all when it's harvested in an ethical and ritually sound way. How they've done for many generations. So I do 100% acknowledge that poaching is real, and it's happening in the countries where the Bwiti tradition is not held as sacred. So there's that's the aspect that we need to look at is this iboga medicine is coming from a spiritual tradition that's still honored and revered today. However, only about 4% are Bwitists, spiritualists that live in Gabon, and otherwise there's other religions that have come through. So my understanding and my knowledge of people working in the fields is that there's many strides to create fair trade, ethically harvested iboga, and I can't say any further on that. But for anyone who is deeply concerned about this, I encourage you to connect through these groups, these psychedelic associations, so that we can create more of a dialogue. And if you feel passionate about that, then step in and help us create a fair, sustainable way that we can help the world with iboga. Because, like I said, the shamans down in Gabon, they want to share this with the world. This medicine, they understand, is here for all of us. This is why the earth gifted it to us. And to ease some of your minds and your hearts, it's this the feedback we received is, when we brought this up to them, is that it's very much plenty, and that it's possible that it can be shared, on a mass scale. If that quells your mind, yeah. I hope that answered that.
What about? We talked before, and you mentioned, or I asked you about colonization of the medicine. What would?
Good question. That's a very good question. So Gabon is split into the north, the south, the east, and the west. And where we've traveled down to is down in the west, very close to the southern borders. And what happened when colonization occurred from France was that the tribes and the villages in the north and the east welcomely accepted religion and the Bible. And what's happened there is that there's become like a merge of the Bwiti and Christianity. And there's a particular group called the Fang, or the Fong, that use pictures of Mother Mary and Jesus Christ and in traditional Bwiti ceremonies, because they've mixed them. And what our shaman told us, who was from the south and trained, it was the 10th generation shaman in his line, was that the people in the south of Gabon who received the medicine from the Pygmy people, or the Bongo people, down in the deep, deep, deep jungles of Gabon, where Iboga first came and spoke to them and taught them how to use it. That's another story. They came out and they shared with the people in the south. They shared all of the truths that the Bwiti talk about, how to use this medicine in a safe and effective way, essentially the tradition. And then it seeped up to the west, and they started to share a little bit at a time to the west, the north, the east. But once they saw that colonization was happening, they pulled back from sharing all of the truths. And this is what I've been told from the traditions in the north and the east. So, does that answer your question regarding colonization? I mean, another thing that I can share is that our shaman said, when they were presented with the Bible in the South, they really respect it, and they love, and they look in, and they agree with that. We are all made in the image and the likeness of the Creator, making us all creators ourselves. And that's a Bwiti truth. You're made in the image and the likeness of our Creator, our God. However, because they couldn't, all the other stories, beautiful stories, and they respect it, like I said, but they didn't accept it as their truth, because with Iboga and the Bwiti tradition, what's so beautiful is that they ingest it, pregnant women, pregnant, the babies get it in utero, they eat this medicine as they're growing up. I've seen children 5 years old eat more medicine than I could take in one night, in one handful. And so this is really deep rooted, and it's a deep, deep, deep rooted tradition. So colonization in that regard, I'm witnessing that they have been able to stay with their truth, what the medicine shows them, so that they can hold on to their roots. And it's, this is a root medicine, so it's very deep. And that's not to put anything against Christianity or any other organized religion. It's just that the Bwiti people understand that unless you can see it, hear it, taste it, smell it, feel it, intuit it with your third eye vision, then they can't accept anything as truth, unless they experience it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. One way to explain that is that if there's a question in the village, and they need to find an answer. What they'll do is they'll have at least three people take the medicine, eat that medicine, sacrament to their body, their soul, and go on a spiritual journey where their soul goes, and the medicine will show them. They have a question, the medicine will show them the answer, whether it's through vision or just a deep understanding, deep knowing. And then they come back and they talk to the shaman, the chief of the villages, and they all share their answer. And they're all going through these ceremonies in different locations. So if they all come back with the same truth, then the people will accept it as truth. And that's just a powerful, I'm getting shivers talking about it, because it's just so simple and profound at the same time. And it makes sense. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Wow,
You're
that's
welcome.
incredible. So, and then just leading into the Canadian use of it, how would your teachers and the people you've trained with, how do they feel about it being used so far away from its home?
Bueno, very good. Because the iboga came to them and it came to the shamans in many visions and telling them that they need to go west. They need to go west. And that's how the shaman that taught us came out here. And there's more. There's more coming out because the iboga is telling them the same thing. So they understand that there's a sickness in the mind of humanity, much sickness. And that's because of the disconnect of the soul. Where, growing up, we're not told, we're not shown that we are a beautiful soul that encompasses this human body and then who has this mind, which is like a super awesome tool to create the life we live. So the question about how they feel about it coming to Canada, I can't speak for everybody, of course, and I know that there's definitely polarized sides. But the ones that I know are very happy and grateful that the medicine's being received when it is received in a honoring way of the Bwiti tradition, because this tradition, it's all oral. There's nothing written down. It's all passed on generation to generation to generation, elders, children, adults, all in the same temples, so that they hear the songs, they they see the way that ceremony is supposed to be conducted, and that's what they do. So when we're down in the villages, they just tell us, you women, you watch the women, you listen to the women, and you follow the women, and then you'll know what to do. And the men, you watch the men, you listen to the men, you follow the men. And that's how that tradition stayed so intact. So bringing it to Canada, this is a long run, bringing it to Canada, what was created was the psycho-spiritual journey, where our shaman received, and many people use the same technique of guiding the mind, rather the soul, through the vehicle of the mind, while on an iboga journey to meet themselves face to face. You have the opportunity of connecting with ancestors, deceased loved ones, and also of communicating with anything that's alive, which anything that has a spirit, nature, animals, this, that. So what we've been gifted, and I say gifted in a most honest and humble way, we've been gifted the ability and a roadmap to heal the mind of somebody, like in Canada, United States, wherever it may be, who's grown up outside of a tradition that acknowledges the truth of who they are. And that's what iboga and the Bwiti tradition is like, basically on a platter that we must respect and we must honor. Yes.
Thank you. That's and so helpful. And then the part of that, also the criticism around it is people using it outside of that cultural or that ceremonial use, such as maybe microdosing or recreationally, or people that have not gone through the type of training that you and your partner have.
Correct.
Do you have any thoughts around that kind of usage outside of how you were trained?
No judgment, no attachments. And I would say that if anyone decides to do that, it's not something we do. We say, how should I start this? I don't microdose iboga. If I'm going to take that medicine, I may go deep into a journey, because I respect the spiritual essence of it. But I can't say for anybody, but I've heard of a lot of personal firsthand accounts that microdosing has helped people. Microdosing on their own has helped themselves, or going on a deep journey on their own. I can't not say, but what I do know from experience is that it's a very powerful medicine. And if you go into it, so let's say unprotected physically, but also unprotected on the spiritual side, because we have to remember we're physical and we're spiritual, and it's the same. And iboga is a physical and spiritual healing medicine. So if you go into it without that understanding, then you could get hurt. And you do not want your soul leaving your body. The first time I went down to Costa Rica, where I experienced the medicine initially, I had met a woman whose soul had left her body because of a very intense acid trip. And the shaman said that the crown had been blown open and her soul had left. But then this has also happened with people, unfortunately, doing the medicine iboga on their own. And I've heard accounts of that too. So that would be just my my 2 cents on taking it on your own without a traditionally trained person. And then with ibogaine, the beautiful thing is that it can be isolated. It can be isolated to one active alkaloid so that doctors like yourself can study it and do, help people a lot. Because I understand it's very good at addiction interruption. What I would love to see is people being able to, if they're going to experience ibogaine for that initial detoxing, and then to experience the full iboga route with traditionally trained Bwiti providers. That's like the step 2, where the ibogaine cleans you up. It's beautiful, and there's definitely spiritual experiences, absolutely healing of the soul, reconnecting with the soul and the mind. But then with the full iboga alkaloids in the root bark, my husband explains it as, you're getting all excited, and you have this family reunion coming up, and you're excited to see all your aunties and your uncles, your grandparents. You get there, and like only cousin Vinny's there. Cousin Vinny's great. He's a good guy. The guy ibogaine, you have a good time. You chat with him. But, it's not the same as like, all the cakes there, the pizza, whatever. Iboga, then we get the full, all those active alkaloids and the spirit, which is the most important part of the plant, which is like male and female. So sometimes he'll come to you in a stern way, forceful, encouraging. And other ways will come very soft and feminine, nurturing, whatever you need, right? So I hope from what I would wish that, if you're going to choose to do some iboga on your own, you really sit with it before going on a deep journey. And I don't personally recommend taking it based on your body weight. We don't dose like that. We dose based on how we've been trained, which is, that's how traditional.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for going through that. So welcome to all you that have joined us recently. Like us on Facebook, help bump this up. Let's get some more people learning about iboga and ibogaine. So I'm going to give Robin a little break there, and let's go to Trisha. Trisha, can you tell us about what brought you to iboga?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, I guess, my first experience with iboga was about 2014. And at the time, I was a university student. I do come from a very traditional Sri Lankan family, and I'm not really traditional. So there's definitely a lot of clashing that happened in my life. And then at one point, I had developed, a combination of an eating disorder mixed with a drug addiction, mixed with like serious depression issues. And in university, I had thought that maybe I have some mental health issues. So I went and talked to a doctor, and they initially just wanted to promote some antidepressants. But there wasn't really I just wasn't feeling it, because I was kind of like, why is that the first approach? Why are you going to the medicine first? Like, what should you be doing? And I didn't want to, so I took it, I think, a couple of times, and then it wasn't working for me because, the medicine was quieting me, but it wasn't dealing with the trauma. And I recognized that, as a student, a lot of my drug addiction came from trauma. I was a user when there was a traumatic situation. And then all of a sudden it was a snowball effect where everything became a traumatic situation. And I just felt like my mind wasn't straight. So I had tried a couple of counseling sessions, and again, it just wasn't the right fit. And then all of a sudden I kind of wanted to go on the journey of really realizing how I could, help myself, because I was just in such a bad state. And, when I was in the mindset of having an eating disorder plus having a drug addiction, it just got super scary. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. And then I really had this experience where, someone had mentioned iboga, and then it just honestly called me. And then I was did my own research. And then I realized what I thought was just me going to clean out a drug addiction actually turned into the mental cleanse I needed in order to start opening me up and help me expand to a place where drug addiction wasn't a thing and my mind was straight, and it wasn't like I had to take any pills. So did the ibogaine the first time, and then I realized, I was healing this deep rooted trauma, and my need to smoke cigarettes, my need to go and do anything really bad to my body just kind of ended. I was no, I want to be the most powerful version of myself. And I mean, for me, I've experienced ayahuasca as well. But I found that, when you're in a really dark state, I don't think ayahuasca is enough. I think that, you know, you can dose yourself, but again, like it's another process that I felt personally. But I found the thing that I loved was that, you know, I had, you know, 16 hours to really identify what was bothering me. And what I will say is I think it's really important to use that long-term period, because when you're like, if you're first time recovering from drug addiction and, you know, you're new to the whole idea of you have trauma that you need to heal, you know, it's kind of nice to get a big dose of what you're really looking at and what's affecting you. Because when you get that, then that'll help you transition outside of the iboga to recognizing those patterns. And then you can start doing your own healing, whether or not you have the ibogaine. So for me personally, it took 3 tries before I realized that I was at that level where I wanted the psycho-spiritual experience. But again, it was just like peeling layers of an onion. Like it was so profound. And, you know, I had talked to a lot of people that I know who have mental health struggles, and they just keep on going to substance abuse. Not just substance abuse, they also are going towards, I just have to take my antidepressant. I just need to take my pill and it'll hit reset. But I mean, they're not realizing that you're not doing the work. As much as trauma is healed through, you know, recovery from like the chemical substance, there's a whole other mental ball game. And that's the reason why you're going to keep going back and getting help until you get your mind. And then so through each of those experiences, I experienced the ibogaine first, and then my second experience was with Robin and her husband, which was sweet. And that was the iboga experience, and it was like much more traditional, which like I had been missing. And then the third time I did it with another couple who is very similar to Mark and Robin. However, they don't do it as traditionally, but it was just as good. But yeah, each time I kept realizing that all this deep rooted trauma, especially the things that I didn't really know was affecting me, you know, because those are the creepers where, you know, you think like I've healed the problem. But then there's this little creeper that comes in and you're like, okay, I was not expecting you, but let's address this. And then, like I said, you know, before when I was going through my healing journey, I really thought that I needed the iboga. And yes, at first I did. However, what the iboga really taught me was life skills. And it really got me to say, like, I can transition the same healing powers that I use while under iboga and through my recovery in normal life. And now, like I said, my traumas have become my superpower. And I mean, who doesn't want to be a superhero? Like, that's sweet.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's pretty much my journey.
Thanks. There's a lot of things there I want to circle back on. I think probably for all of you. But Maria, let's have you tell us how did Iboga find you, or you find Iboga?
Um, so as I mentioned in the introduction, I also had, you know, some struggles with mental health, you know, severe addiction issues, a lot of unresolved trauma. So in 2016, I was in I was in a really bad spot in 2016. So originally, I had been prescribed medication for a couple of different chronic pain conditions. I was probably on about 6 or 7 different medications at the time. Um, I was in the middle of um, a relationship that was very abusive, so I was basically falling apart as well. And I heard about Ibogaine through somebody who had experienced it themselves as well. And I started doing some research. And you know, once I did the research and I got in touch um, with a provider, I something was telling me that I had to do this. You know, I'm not sure what, but something was telling me that I had to do it. You know, and that it was, you know, it was going to heal me, right? And so my experience was I was lucky because I was able to, you know, hop on a plane and come out to Vancouver, and you know, I was there for 10 days, Um, and honestly, really what I like to tell people when they ask me about my experience is the way I look at it is I feel like it healed me from the inside out, right? And yeah, I mean, it was, now I haven't had any experience with iboga. It's definitely something that I would like to do. Um, but I've been able to, really work through a lot of the trauma, and it's just been it was an amazing experience for me, and I benefited so much from it. Um, and I'm grateful for it. You know, it was such a gift. You know, and yeah, it was just a beautiful experience. And like I said, it really did. It really did save me. Mhm.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad.
Yeah. And back to you, Robin. Tell us how Aboga found you.
Iboga found me when I was 20 years old, and I had just been through this new idea of what the secret was, and I started being more positive, putting things out there. Kind of fell on my lap. I ended up going out to a retreat center and no concept of what I was doing. I really came in as like, oh, there's a ceremony. Cool, let's go to this. And what happened was I lost the fear in my mind. I sat with that medicine that night. There was a traditional ceremony, and I was scared. The medicine brought up thoughts very fast in my mind, and I didn't know what was going on. There were these loud rattles, and my friend that brought me there, like this girlfriend of mine, thought, we got to run away from here. What the heck is this? And the next morning I woke up from laying down all night in the temple, and I just felt like I had the eyes of a brand new baby. I woke up and I was just the all the ideas that I was worthless, that I was like not lovable, all these things just kind of melted away. And then what happened when I went home to Canada? I was living in Ontario at the time with my family. They all came back. They all came back, and I learned a really tough lesson: is that iboga is not a one-time fix-all. Everything's peachy keen. It offers you that glimpse. You know, it offers you a glimpse into what's possible, what you can create with your mind. Because that morning when I woke up, I was like, I just wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't scared of myself. I felt like I was more in my body, and my mind was clear. And it's what I understand now, what I know now is that it was my soul. My soul was able to come out, and I was able to experience life through that part of myself. But like I said, I went back home and kind of crazed like a lunatic to my family, saying, "Iboga can save everyone. You need this because you're so messed up." And I made a big mistake, because my family got scared, and they were, like, Robin's joined a cult, whatever. And that's all right, because it's a culture. It's a culture. It's a tradition, and we can all access it because Bwiti, they welcome anybody, whether what religion you come from, no religion, male, female, whatever it is, age doesn't matter. You're welcome into the temple. They keep the temple doors face the east, and you walk in on the left hand side, and the doors are open. You can walk out on the right. You're always welcome anytime. So anyhow, that's iboga is such a beautiful medicine. It is a gift, like Maria said. It's a gift, and Maria, you're a gift too. That's what the Bwiti tradition tells us. It teaches us is that our life is a gift. And for all the people struggling with the drug addiction, the mental disorders, depression, anxiety, PTSD, I know from experience, witnessing people, helping people through it. Trisha, you're amazing. You're beautiful. You've done a lot of good work. But you're so true to say it's work. But you don't need the medicine to do the work. You have your soul here constantly, all the time. She's here with us. He's here if you're, whatever you identify with. You are you, and you have the power to move forward. But that iboga medicine is a gift to us all, and it's speaking to us, and it's asking to come out and to be respected and honored, but it wants to help us. especially facing lockdowns across the world, people, having to face themselves essentially, I think was what's happening. And unfortunately, there's many overdoses, many more, unfortunately, than we would like to see. And I just have a stat here too. I want to pop in that, where is it? Rapid rise in unemployment as a result of COVID-19 pandemic is predicted to result in 3,000 to 8,000 excess suicides in 2020 to 2021. And that's Canadian statistics. And I think one suicide is too many. I've had those thoughts myself when I was in those darker places. And, when we lose one person to suicide or overdose or whatever it may be, we lose a part of the puzzle. And we need everybody to step up and do what we can, policymakers included, doctors, whatever, anyone, to step up and do more research and learn and listen to podcasts like this so that we can create a world where our children, can experience this medicine. Because I witness it with the children too. And I have to say this, I'm witnessing at the playground, children being scared of being near children. It's creating anxiety and depression, I imagine, in many people. So that's why Iboga is here, is to help us through these really harsh times so we can come back as a community and be strong together. Now, Basi.
I'd like to come back to the addiction thing in a bit, but what I want to ask, because a lot of people want to know this, is you did the medicine, but then you've touched on this, all of you. You have to integrate it. So can you guys talk, each of you, about how you integrated that and what processes you continue to use so that the lessons you learned during your medicine time are continuing? So I don't know who wants to start. Do you want to start again, Trisha?
Yeah, sure. What I will say is, like, from the integration aspect, like what was said earlier, Iboga gives you the roadmap. And the thing is that, in any plan, you need if you're building a house, you need the drawings first. And then you need to figure out what's the best avenue to take to get the materials, to be able to build the house in a good time, and for it to be a safe journey. So when you talk about it like that, the thing that I learned from the beginning of the Iboga, and I was always a spiritual person, like I always prayed. But I believe that there's the stigma that, if you pray, it's a religion and religion's going to save you. No. Religion and prayer is meant to come in and integrate you to your own self. So you're getting self-awareness out of it. And so that's what Iboga really taught me, was self-awareness. But then from the beginning, it was all about mindfulness. And it was all about, you don't need Iboga to get into a state where you're becoming self-aware. You can meditate. You can practice yoga. More importantly, you can practice self-care. And then when you go under that umbrella, that's where you're getting all of your healing. And I think Iboga really opens up, and then you integrate those skills that you learn to become self-aware, but to also be able to, no matter what the situation, if a trauma comes up, you can go in and heal yourself. Because again, with Iboga, it's a lot of self-soothing. You're not on the medicine and then someone's directing your thoughts. It's like, hey, take the medicine, figure it out. And then we'll see you in 16 hours and then we'll reflect. And I think that's one thing that's really important to say, is that, you're getting that firsthand experience of self-soothing. I mean, that's a skill we're teaching kids as a baby. When you want a kid, say you want to have an experience where you want your kid to start crying themselves to sleep, to sleep train them. They have to heal themselves almost. That's really what's helping, is nurturing them. And again, when you're an adult, that same theory applies. Like, you have to internally heal your own stressors and your own trauma so you can recognize what is a stressor, what is a trauma, and what is not. And I mean, that's what Iboga really did. And then because, it facilitated my mind to expand that way and say, like, okay, I need to heal myself. Like, no doctor in the world, no person, not even my own parents, know me the way I know me. And I mean, that's a really important thing to understand, is that you have to do it yourself, because people don't get you. As much as your parents say, I know everything about you, your best friend, your husband, whoever will say, we know you. They really don't, because there's always a layer that there's no such thing as a person who doesn't have a layer that no one knows about, That's the mystery of life. And I mean, that's what Iboga really opened me up to, was like, you can use your mind. And when you're weak, like, yeah, the medicine is there because you can't really face those demons. You can't really face those traumas. But it says, in the most loving way possible, you're going to face your demons. But then when you get out of this experience, you have to continue doing the work, because, there's no such thing as a quick fix. And, especially with trauma recovery, quick fixes don't work. They really just, you can get a quick fix. It numbs the problem for, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year, but it'll creep back up because no one's thinking about the self-awareness that they should develop, which Iboga teaches you.
Mm-hmm. Your superpower.
Oh, yes.
Self-reflection, your self-healer. Thank you. Maria,
thank you.
How did you do your integration, and how do you continue to do your integration?
So for me, I think really, during the whole process that I did the Ibogaine, I feel like it really brought me back into almost like into a childlike state. And I came out of it with really just a whole different perspective. And now, again, like Trish said, like you have to do the work, right? And you have to continue to do the work, which is what I do, right? I mean, meditation, yoga, self-reflection, all of those things that I do, and I continue. There's always things that are going to come up in life. And I've, there has been things for me that have come up. I've dealt with a lot of different things over the past few years that normally I would have turned to self-medication, right? Whereas I have the tools now. I've learned how to cope with these things, right? With the tools I have, and I know that for me, I do have to continue to do these things, and I do have to continue to put the work in on a daily basis. So.
You've also had some remarkable physical positive consequences.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed in my, I'd say mid-20s. I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and pretty severe. I was surgery usually every couple of years. And I was told by many doctors that, the chances of ever getting pregnant were very, very slim. And I, after doing Ibogaine, so I was, it obviously it helped me with my addiction, but it also really, really helped. And I mean, I don't know if there's any research done about this or not, but for me personally, it really, really helped with my endometriosis. And I got pregnant, and I have a beautiful baby boy now. He's 20 months old, and so I call him my little miracle baby. So yeah, so I've had very remarkable things happen.
I did actually do some looking into the research and registered trials, and there was actually 4 trials I found that were registered between Iboga and Ibogaine, 1 in Spain and 3 in Brazil. So no, I don't think it's been studied. So, for the researchers out there watching, there may be some very great topics. There are some great topics here that do need medical exploration. So Robin, you're unique in this group in that you're also a provider now. So can you tell us a bit too about your integration and how you help others integrate, and what people need to know if they're going to be doing this medicine, how they need to?
It's a really good question. Yeah. There is, like I said, the Bwiti tradition that comes along with Iboga, and it's like Trish, when you were laying there for those 16 hours, I don't know if you remember, but Mark was coming in many, many times, on, and at the times where you needed to hear what you needed to hear to gently guide you through that journey, the Bwiti truth. You need to love yourself first before you can love another, for example. Or life is just how you think every day, truly. Mm-hmm. You got to give it 100% or zero. It's either one or the other. So what we do, and we've been so blessed to have the opportunity of someone also treating us, is that the Bwiti tradition, along with the Iboga, offers you what you need to heal. So what I mean by that is that when we have people come for ceremony, and when we came for ceremony, it was our turn to surrender our problems, to surrender all of the stuff we've been working through to that medicine. But the medicine will only meet us if we go that halfway. If we fully say, "Hey, I'm letting go of this," we can't be holding on to any of it. So I just wanted to note that the Iboga absolutely is the teacher, it's the guide, and the Bwiti tradition is like the perfect package that it comes wrapped in, so that you can have the safe, effective provider, which our job is to share that tradition, share what we've experienced, share these truths that have been coming through this medicine in the temple from everybody. This is the truth. You are a soul living in a human body with a mind. You're not your mind, and you're not your body. You're a soul living in a human body with a human mind. And when you come back to that simple truth, know who you are, then you'll know what you want in life. Those are two things that absolutely have helped me in my life, and I share this with all of you, is that once you know who you are as a soul being, then you'll know what you want and how to get it. Another thing, when we have these minds constantly bringing new challenges, new opportunities to not trust ourselves, to maybe not trust life, what we need to do is we need to come back into the present moment. And this is so fabulous that I can share with all of you, is that this is a Bwiti way of healing and continuing that healing after the medicine is to be present. And you can be present. How do you be present? It's truly tapping into your senses, tapping into your, understanding of the world. How you understand the world comes through your hearing. How you perceive the world, like Maria said, your perception shifted after that medicine. How we smell, taste. If one thing that I can share is that to be present, you got to use at least 3 of your senses. When we're children, we're taught we have 5, but the truth is that there's another one. There's our intuition, our third eye. Okay, we call it the sixth sense, whatever you want. And this is the pineal gland, which allows us to see into our dreams. It allows us to intuit, what's going on. And the Bwiti say to be present. Yes, you say, for example, you're eating a meal, and I'm going long and fast and stuff, but this is how I tap back in through my everyday. I'm eating my food. You take a breath, and then you look at your food. You see it's there. You can smell it. You might hear nice music you have putting on, and then you enjoy that meal. You can really taste it. You can smell it. You're present with your senses, as opposed to what most people may have the habit of doing, which is eating while looking at their phone, watching TV, whatever it may be. And this, myself, I experienced anorexia and bulimia as a teenager. This was before Iboga, and a lot of it has to do with coming out of the mind. So my gift to all of us here today is just integration techniques can be as easy as just snapping your fingers and just becoming aware of where you are. Seriously, just becoming present, because your mind is your tool for navigating the world with. But the real one in charge is your soul. And I want to say another point is that your soul sits in your heart. Your heart is the seat of your soul, and your mind is really just there to take commands. So what I am able to do now is I'm able to tell my mind to be quiet, and come back to the present moment. And all it does take is that the remembrance that I'm not all these thoughts that are coming up in my mind, and the what ifs, the oh my gosh, or what? No, I am that soul who's in the present moment. Iboga Bwiti teaches us that, but it's our job to make that choice in every moment to be present, so that we can hear the messages, receive the guidance from our soul, our ancestors, the spirits of the plants, the earth, so that we can navigate the world and begin to trust ourselves. Yeah. So integration can take meditation, yoga, everything's great. But you're your own integration. You're that medicine. And anyone who hasn't done the medicine or wants to do it, whatever it is, just remember that what's calling you is what's already within you. You are your own medicine. Your soul is there. So if you trust that, trust those words, start tapping into that present and see what happens. Yeah. Start talking to your soul too. That's a really good technique. Look in the mirror, see your eyes, know that your soul's in there, and just say, I love you. Yeah. Yeah. Right? There's so much. This is great. Life is great.
Thanks, Robin.
You're welcome.
I kind of feel bad doing this, but I kind of need to do this. It's a topic that needs to come up after that. Like, we're all now grounded and we're in our senses and we're feeling here. Addiction. You touched on that earlier. We in the middle of this viral pandemic, we still have this addiction, opioid overdose pandemic happening in Canada and the US, where I believe the last numbers I saw is we're 130% higher than we were last year, the same time with overdose deaths. Addiction is a serious issue in our society. You guys have touched on it. And addiction is not just drugs or opioids or illicit drugs. It's also sugar. It's also exercise. It's also tobacco, alcohol. But a lot of times in our society, and us MDs have been really bad at this for a very long time, of dealing with addiction well, and recognizing that addiction isn't the problem. It's the solution to something that's happened. And I really want to take some time here to be able to speak to those that might be going, oh, addiction, that's somebody else's problem. That doesn't pertain to me. Because I think it does apply to all of us. We do things to make ourselves feel better. So addiction is a logical reaction to abuse or stress or whatever. So can you guys talk, a bit about that? Because what I'm wondering is, there's consequences not to having access to medications that help like this, right? So I know that's not much of a question, but what are you guys' thoughts around that? What do people that don't understand addiction need to hear about this?
So from my case, I will say that I think addiction is just one of those things that, it's not addiction that's the problem, it's trauma. And addictions are the result of trauma, and addictions are created when you need to find some sort of happiness because either your external environment is bad, or internally, more importantly, your internal environment is bad. And I think that it becomes an easy fix. So in my case, for instance, I know people who have experimented with drugs and had fun. And, they did it once and it never really affected them. Now, in my case, I wasn't using the traditional routes. I wasn't using antidepressants to deal with my problems. I wasn't using any of that. I was using drugs. Cocaine was my antidepressant. That's how I felt. And the thing is that with addiction, how many people are doing drugs so that they can numb the pain? Like, I understand people who celebrate, but, growing up, going to university, I saw how even in myself and my friends, they said they were having fun and they wanted to party. They just finished an exam. The first thing is, I want to go party. But that's not showing you that you're having fun. That's showing you that you just recovered from something traumatic and you need something to numb your pain. That's what it comes down to, is that it's just a numbing agent. And addictions are a great way, whether it be food, shopping, anything, whatever it is for you that you're addicted to. I think that that's the thing that helps you cope with your trauma, because then at least it gives you that like perceived happiness, that momentary lapse where you're happy. And, maybe it'll last 5 minutes and maybe it'll last 5 hours. But the thing is that with addiction, the only way you truly heal that internal battle is if you get your mind straight. And that's super important to understand. When you look at, going to detox, when you take methadone and Suboxone, those things aren't actually dealing with the trauma. They're numbing you and giving you something to get addicted to so that you can continue to manage. And I think that's the thing. It's not about managing mental health. It's about elevating your mental health internally so that you can say no to your addictions.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like that you touched on it's the trauma, right?
Mm-hmm. Trauma is huge,
right? Like Dr. Gabor Mate was quoted in Dosed movie saying, "It's not why the addiction, but why the pain." Mm-hmm. Right? And that's our primary goal as a provider, bringing someone back to their soul, that connection with their soul. If it doesn't happen right away, if it's not textbook, what I need to do is I need to go back into their early childhood, as early back as even an infant, even in utero sometimes. And what we are able to do is bring people back so they can see where that initial trauma happened, where they might have had that initial disconnect from the soul, like you pulled half the plug out, right? And for me personally, I grew up. I was very blessed to have a happy childhood home. No sexual abuse, nothing like that. But my trauma was that in the 7th grade, I was replaced in my friend group by another girl.
Mm.
And for me, what that did in the 7th grade was it just it disconnected me. It hurt me so bad that I was alienated, alone, that I began to look for happiness and acceptance within drugs, different friend groups that weren't healthy, and this led to anxiety, depression, eating disorders, all this stuff, just because I got replaced by another girl on the schoolyard. And so drug addiction. What we've witnessed is that you don't have to have a super traumatic event to go down that road. And unfortunately, a lot of people do have very unfortunate childhoods. But with this medicine and with this tradition, we've been able to help people and really turn them around from the most severe sexual abuse, childhood, whatever it may be, to something as easy as mine. That's the importance here, because like Trish said, I love it. It's the trauma, unfortunately, and that's what we need to go and really address. And I don't believe that the pharmaceutical industry has the capacity to do that, because it's missing the spiritual aspect, and because we're both physical and spiritual, we need to have both to heal that. That's my personal opinion there. Yeah.
Well, and speaking from that the pharmaceuticals perspective is not truly to heal. It's not an economic model. The economic model is a pill you need to take every day, or a medication you need to take frequently. Whereas a boga, if it's 1, 2, 6, 10 sessions and then you're done, that's not a great economic model for this. So, did you want to talk about or comment on that, Maria? Anything about around addiction and?
Yeah, I think what people have to, because what you mentioned, Dr. Pam, about, people thinking that addiction is not my problem. And I think what people have to realize is that addiction doesn't discriminate, right? You don't necessarily have to, I mean, you can come from any different background, any different, it doesn't matter how you grew up, right? It just doesn't discriminate, right? And for me, sugar, it's funny that you mentioned sugar, because I think sugar was my very first addiction, right? For me, it was all about instant gratification, right? Just anything I could get my hands on to make me feel good, for whether it was a brief moment of time or a longer period of time, right? And, I haven't gotten to the point where I've discovered, I know there was many different traumas, but I don't know where that first one started. But for me, there was always feelings of low self-esteem, low self-worth, trying to fit in, and that always, really, I was just looking to fill a void, right? That could never be filled, right? So, and I think that's the most important thing that I hope that people can realize, is that, we need to take a different approach when it comes to addiction. We really do.
Yeah, I think we're learning that. Believe it or not, I think the medical, us folks in the medical, we're learning. We're open to learning, and we want to learn. We're leaning in here. Well, certainly I am, and I know a lot of my colleagues are. Some aren't, but we'll convert them eventually, or they'll retire. We'll get new ones in here. So there's a number of questions coming from the panel, but there are some other things I do want to hit on. One was directed to me to ask me about the science. I'm not a BOGA researcher or Ibogaine researcher, so I can't really answer that, but we're certainly open to bringing in some people that can talk about more of the mechanisms of actions and that in the future, perhaps. But no, I can't really answer that question. I'd be a fraud if I tried, so I don't want to embarrass myself here. And then another question, if any of you feel comfortable or have the experience to answer this, a number of people have been asking if you can compare or contrast a few different medicines, if you've had experience with them, specifically the difference between ayahuasca versus ibogaine or iboga versus psilocybin. Does anyone want to tackle that one?
Well, I can say, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, so that was really something that I had to identify in the last few years, because, I heard about ayahuasca and it's supposed to be, that's supposed to heal trauma. But when I was actually with Mark and Robin, I really understood the fact that, the ibogaine is the grandfather plant and the ayahuasca is almost the grandmother. So I think that it's good to use both, for instance. But I mean, with ayahuasca, I just felt it was much more gentle. Like when I had healed about 60% of my trauma, ayahuasca was great because it's just, a good check-in. But I just find that with the iboga and the ibogaine, for instance, when someone's dealing with addiction or with mental health struggle, they're truly their weakest. They truly are at a point where, like, you can't just give them a little bit. They need to understand, I have trauma and accept it. And I think ayahuasca it was a lot shorter for me. So, you don't really get that deep dive. But I found that with the iboga, I got the deep dive. And again, that roadmap honestly led me to ayahuasca. Like ibogaine was really good because I understood like where the problem was coming from, what I have to do and what my path was. And I got rid of I understood what my trauma was that I have to identify. And then between iboga ceremonies, when I would do ayahuasca, certain things that came up in iboga would come up again. And it's like, hey, you're ready for this now. And then, so I feel like it was a great integration. I haven't done a lot with microdosing from the mushroom side of things. That's something I'm interested in. But I just found there was like, with the spiritual nature of the iboga and with the ayahuasca, I kind of needed that like spiritual backing just to kind of, get me to understand myself, become more self-aware, but then also be willing to be vulnerable and like willing to let myself open up like that.
Right on. Yeah. And Trish, I'll correct you slightly on that with the iboga and the ayahuasca. And I drew a little picture. Here. So what we got is a trinity here. We got a triangle, right? And all these beautiful medicines are very much a part of this triangle. Without one, we wouldn't have this beautiful picture. But what we've been told is that the iboga, being that it's a male and female plant medicine, it sits at the top, like the grandmother, grandfather, godmother medicine. And what we have down here is peyote, more the masculine energy medicine, and the grandmother ayahuasca, so more the female deep healing wisdom of that beautiful vine medicine. And it's a great question. I've experienced these three beautiful traditional medicines, psilocybin, San Pedro, marijuana, all these beautiful plant medicines in a sacred way. And they each have their own gifts to share. And what I noticed is that when you're ready for one, how should I say this? Like a lot of people say the iboga called out to them. They didn't know why. They just kind of like, this is what I have to do. Once you heard about it, you go. A lot of people have had that experience with peyote, ayahuasca, whatever it may be. The medicines have different purposes. Like I said, my ayahuasca is more that nurturing, beautiful visions, kind of like beautiful songs that are being played in a traditional way. It's that beautiful medicine. But iboga and peyote, I can't speak enough about those because they're not my tradition that I've integrated into. With the iboga, it comes with both, like I said, the masculine and the feminine presence. So it gives you what you need when you need it. And personally for me, I had first experienced iboga, like I said, when I was 20. And then years following, I got the opportunity to experience peyote and ayahuasca in San Pedro. And I always just knew in my soul that iboga was the one for me. And I feel like, and I understand that everyone has their own paths. So if one plant medicine speaks to you, then start to talk to that medicine. start to say, hello, iboga, hello, ayahuasca, hello, peyote, whatever it may be, and call out to it. Because being that we're spiritual beings, it will answer you. And maybe, who knows, maybe if enough of us do this on this aspect, hello, iboga, I need you in my life. I'm hearing these stories that it's really helping people to get to the root of their problem. I need you in my life. Please come to me. We have the power collectively to shift things. Along with many doctors and policymakers, I want to remind you that you have the power within you to make this sustainable, ecological, wonderful medicine that could be available for all of us. Yeah.
I'd like to move to that a bit. In the U.S., it's been illegal since the 70s, and in Canada, it was in this nutraceutical, I think, natural product, but then it was moved. So now it's not. Am I correct in that, Robin? It's not actually legal in Canada.
I believe it's unregulated. It's being looked into by Health Canada. Yes, at the moment, but as of now, there's no status on it. And that's all I can say on that. Trevor is a really good one to talk to about those aspects of legalities regarding the medicine. But at this time, we are not operating in Canada because of, of course, the pandemic, but also, figuring out the legal, implications. So Costa Rica is where many people go to, and Costa Rica are opening their borders up for anyone thinking about, if they can do the medicine. There are centers in Costa Rica, our colleagues that are operating. So there's that. Mm-hmm.
Can you speak a bit to the neurochemistry of it around addiction? The mechanism of action of how that's working in the brain when people are using it for treatment of addiction?
Great question. I'm not a scientist nor a doctor, but from what I know, it's that the neuroreceptors in the brain have a temporary, let's say, I don't know the scientific word, but like reprogramming. So it temporarily will reset your neurotransmitters. And in aspect of addiction, whether it's addiction to negative thinking, depression, anxiety, or addiction to physical drugs, what that medicine is able to do, and I talk about the full total alkaloid iboga medicine, it's able to temporarily reset the receptors. And then along with the psychotherapeutic communication, sharing the Bhuti truths, allows people to receive the truths. For example, you are lovable. For someone to, take that medicine, have the, their mind reset in that way. And I don't know the scientific whatever, words, but then for them to re-implant another thought of, oh, I am lovable. I am lovable. And what they do is if they keep thinking that thought, keep focusing on it, then they will essentially rewire their own brain to this main channel, if that makes sense. Is that a good way to answer that?
Thank you. Yes, better than I would have done. Thank you.
Okay.
So not available here. Go to Costa Rica. Obviously, completely out of touch for a lot of people, especially people that might want to access it for addiction. So let's say we had some MDs and some policymakers and maybe some health ministers watching this webinar. Maria, do you want to give us what would you want them to hear from you? If people that had the ability to make a difference to change this so that this could be medically available in Canada, what do they need to hear?
Honestly, please make it happen. That's what I want to say. I can't say enough about it. I mean, it saved me, and I think it can save a lot of people. I have, I don't have enough fingers to count the amount of people that I've lost to this disease, to addiction. Some very, very recently. And it breaks my heart because they could have been saved. So that's what I'd like them to hear.
Thank you. Trisha?
what I would say is, this is like, this should be the new norm. I think that what's currently available, the reason why addiction's not, you're saying increases, not decreases, because the current system isn't working, and I think that, there has to be a new way to integrate new philosophies. And this isn't new. This is a medicine and a healing power that has been around for who knows for so long. This is pre big pharma, I would say. And I think that, we really need to recognize the fact that we're dealing, there's a reason why there's a lot of traumatized people, because the current system is not working. And I think that when you integrate new holistic treatments like an iboga therapy, that's also going to empower, another person who has had trauma to use holistic ways of dealing with their addiction and with their mental health recovery situations. I think that you're going to see a more profound effect than keep going back to a system that clearly is not working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to say that addiction, suicide, depression, anxiety, it doesn't discriminate against race, age, or even income status, religion, anything like that, and from what we've seen coming through our doors. And I would ask any policymakers, or doctors, whoever you may be, to look at your children or your grandchildren in the eyes and think about the next 7 generations. If you are a person in power who has the ability to at least look into something that's another option, then I invite you to do that, because it's our job as parents, as caregivers, as role models to leave this place better off, this world better off for the next 7 generations. Absolutely. And there's this quote from the a government national ncbi.gov website. And I just want to quote this right, here, because it says the government is asking for timely access to mental health care, financial provisions, and social labor support programs, as well as, and this is the point that touches to me, as well as optimal treatment for mental health disorders is urgently needed. It's urgently needed. You're calling for this. And we're here to just gently share with you that there's other options. And we need to go down. We need to go down and really get down to the root of this tradition. So I'd invite us all to continue to keep the doors open to Gabon, to this tradition, to the Bwiti, to these people, because it's absolutely vital that these teachings come from them. We can only be stewards. We can help conduct studies, but we need to really go to the root and the source, and that's how we can create deep healing. But first, we're here to help. We have so many colleagues, many case studies that have proved successful. So yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I think sometimes people think doctors are a lot more powerful than they are. And the reality is that a lot of this change comes from the grassroots and people asking for it, and people with lived experience speaking up, and women like you having the courage to go on a very public webinar like this and speaking your truth and your experience. So thank you very much for that. I know it kind of sounds like I'm winding up, and I sort of am, because I know Maria's got to put a child to bed, and thank you for your time. This is another thought. Just how did this affect your families? Can you tell us, what was the consequence to your families of your experience with iboga? You want to start, Maria?
My family dynamic wasn't the best. When I was, when I was using drugs, when I was, suffering, right? My family dynamic wasn't the best. My relationships with my family were strained and torn. And I think, Ibogaine helped me, and it gave me the ability to rebuild those relationships, and I have really good relationship with my family today, and I'm grateful for that. So.
Myself?
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Absolutely. I'm a mother of one 4-year-old boy now, and I'm a stepmother of a 9-year-old who's turned 9 today. Happy birthday, buddy. This medicine, my family wouldn't be the same without this, because my husband and I have both done substantial healing work on our own souls, our minds, and our bodies. And we're not perfect, and we need more medicine to keep going deeper. But how it's affected our family is that we've been able to start to foster a sense of traditional spiritual values with our boys. And we also work with an ancestor altar, another African, not Bwiti per se, from another culture and tradition, but keeping contact with the ancestors, their souls. And I think it's just the most beautiful thing that Bwiti means the study of life. So Iboga, that comes with Bwiti tradition, it's just all about studying your life. So that's all we do with our boys. We do our best to remind them that they have their senses, they have their intuition, and they can trust themselves. And if you can go through life and to have that foundation when you're beginning, then that's what I would like my contribution to the next 7 generations is just that. Know who you are, you know what you want. Yeah.
Thank you.
In my case, it's interesting because I do come from a very traditional family, and traditionally, me as like the youngest female was not supposed to have a traditional drug problem. So that was a really huge thing for them to overcome. But it was kind of beautiful because like I didn't think that my parents would be so accepting. And when I did it, they can attest to the fact that the person that I was like literally as soon as I left for my first appointment before I had touched Ibogaine to now, they can see that, I didn't go through the normal channels and it worked. And they were shocked because, when I had said I'm going to go on a spiritual quest, they're like, she's going to do more drugs. That was their thought. They're like, oh God, a spiritual quest? Like, really? But yeah, they were very accepting to it. And now, even when I first started, there was some stigma, so I couldn't really say much. But, as they see me go through each path of healing, right now, I think that my parents have like the utmost gratitude for this plant because, it helped me go back to my original version. The untraumatized version of Trish came out. And after each ceremony, they saw it. And then they thought, maybe there is a way to her madness. Maybe this is a good idea. And it was cool. Like, it was really cool. But I do have family who, again, will say, like, this is a cult. It's like, no, it's not. It's not a cult. It's a lifestyle. It's you choosing to, empower yourself to the point where your lifestyle does not even, isn't fazed by trauma. So yeah, it was interesting.
Nice.
Well, I want to give you all profound thank yous for taking the time. You've gotten tears to my eyes multiple times. I'm trying to hide it. But anyways, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been just so valuable, and thank you. And to all of our audience that have stuck with us and watched these amazing 3 women share their stories, thank you. If you like what we're doing at the CPA, please join, become a friend of the CPA. We'll use any donations to do more things like this. Give us your ideas, your suggestions. We're here for you. And final words, anyone?
I'm grateful that you as a medical doctor are stepping up and taking action from your own personal standpoint. It's great. It's really great. Thank you.
Yeah, there's many medical professionals and healthcare professionals that are here in this realm. So it's we're all in this together, and the more we can help each other and lift each other up, I think we're just making a better space for those who come behind us. So yeah, we're all in this together.
Yeah,
so and thank you so much.
Can I just say, Trisha, you really nailed it on the head. Like, let's make Iboga and Bwiti tradition honoring it the new norm.
Oh yeah,
that's the new norm.
Yes,
Truth. Let's know who we are. Let's we're all beautiful souls in these bodies and the mind. That's the normal. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. No more fear. Just love. Bessie.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Take care.
Until we meet again. Good night.
Thank you.